Hi folks, this is Karim Rauf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we'll continue our lab, the DC Comics lab. In the previous video we have been discussing a couple of issues. We have been discussing that through the DHCP we have been configuring the Pixie boot options. By configuring these Pixie boot options, we enable our client or workstation to communicate with the Windows Deployment Services server, so it can begins or initialize the zero-touch installation process for deployment of Windows 10 LTSC 2019 operating system, and not only installing Windows 10 LTSC 2019 operating system, but to install other softwares like Office, like Google Chrome, like Firefox. All of this will be installed automatically additionally to the Windows 10 LTSC 2019. Okay, so for the workstation, because the workstation doesn't contain any operating system, so it needs to know the IP of the Windows Deployment Services server. So this will be done by the DHCP. It will distribute something called Pixie boot options. These Pixie boot options will enable the workstation to communicate with the Windows Deployment Services and begin the installation of the Windows 10 LTSC and the other softwares automatically, and at the end we will get our workstation. The workstation will have Windows 10 installed and Office and other softwares, and it will get a name and it will join the domain. Okay, so the first thing we have done that we have configured the Pixie options, and then after that we begin making our first task in the Microsoft deployment tool. This task will be applied to the Windows 10 LTSC 2019 operating system. What I mean that we will create a task. In this task we are telling the Microsoft deployment tool to begin automating the process of Windows 10 LTSC 2019 installation, and the automation also of the softwares installation like Office and other softwares. And at the end we are also telling in this task that the workstation should get its name from Microsoft deployment database, which is SQL 2016. We have installed this in the previous video. And at the end, in the same task, we are telling him to join this PC to the domain, or joining the workstation finally to the domain. Okay, so we have configured the Pixie boot and we have make our task list, and then after that we have installed SQL 2016. So because we needed to store the workstation's names, and as I said before, every workstation will get its name according to its unique MAC address, okay, which is the a unique number assigned to its network adapter. Okay, every network adapter when it is manufactured, it is given a unique name. This name is called MAC address. So every PC will get a certain name according to its MAC address, which is unique. Okay, so I can just also brief this in this graph. The PC doesn't have here this PC. It has only a hard disk. This hard disk is not partitioned yet, and there is no operating system on this PC. We will power on this PC. So at first it will ask, or it will try to get an IP address. So it will begin broadcasting and asking if there is any DHCP server in the domain or in the area. So the DHCP will reply, okay, I am the DHCP, my IP is 10.0.1.21, I am on port 60. Here is your IP address. We will give it, for example, a number of 10.0.1.50. After the workstation gets the IP address, it will go in a mode called System Pixie Boot. This is a kind of system, not like the Windows, but it is a system. So when the workstation enters this or begins initializing or booting or working with this system, the DHCP begin giving this Pixie boot system some information, something called Pixie client and the IP of the Windows Deployment Services server. Okay, and the boot file. This boot file will it is the one responsible to redirect the workstation to the Windows Server Deployment Services. Okay, so after all of this information it's filled, it will go to the Windows Deployment Services, and then it will begin initializing a system. This is called boot image. This is a system that it will only be used during the process of the deployment. Okay, this system displays the MDT process and progress, okay, and after it opens the boot system or the boot image system, it will redirect the workstation to the Windows deployment share, okay. In this share we have a couple of things here. Here we will have a task list. In this task list we have three things. First of all, we will tell him to use a script to deploy Windows 10, okay, automatically, and the second task or the second item in the task is to deploy softwares automatically also through a script, and the third task is to give this PC a name according to its MAC address. All of these are done in a list, okay. So the first task is to deploy Windows 10 automatically. So also in this, this deployment share contains a task and some scripts and the source of Windows 10, installation files, and the source of the softwares that we need to install, okay. So after the workstation or after the PC gets to the deployment share, a task will be implemented. This task, first of all, will first line, it is asking to deploy Windows 10 automatically. So when this script needs to be implemented when the Windows 10 installation begins. So after the workstation goes to the deployment share, it will begin initializing the Windows 10 installation files, and the installation of the Windows process will begin. At that time, the script for the automation will begin filling the spaces or filling the answers or automating the process of this installation. After the Windows 10 installation finishes, it will begin the second task for installing the software, okay. So this this is the source of the software files, and this script will begin automating the installation of these softwares. So the script will go, for example, this script for the Windows, it will go, and this script is told that the Windows installation files are in this place, okay. So begin automating the process. And also this script tells us that the software source files are in this place, so it will begin installing these softwares, okay, after the end of the installation of Windows system. And at the end, the PC will get a name, and then after that it will be restarted to join the domain at the end, okay. So this task is given a name. It's called Win LTSC 2019. This task is Windows 10 LTSC deployment task. In the previous video I have been saying that we begin working with the Windows 10 automation script. We have told the script to partition the hard disk because this workstation has a hard disk that it is not partitioned yet. So we are telling him to make two partitions, C and D, and this is only for the new computers. The computers that don't have any operating system and the hard disk is not partitioned yet. This is called new computers. As for computers that are having already an operating system or their hard disk is partitioned already, this will not apply to it, okay. So this is the whole process in brief. In this lab we will begin working with the script that will automate the installation of the softwares after the Windows 10 installation is finished using the Windows 10 automation script. So we'll begin implementing the second script to automate the installation of the softwares like the Office, like the Google Chrome, like the Firefox, like the Vlsc, like 7-zip. All of this in this lab we'll begin working with the second script. This script will be used for automation of the software, and at the end we will revise all of the scripts, okay, or revise all of the tasks and see at the end, after finishing the software script and the Windows 10 script, we will create a virtual machine that doesn't have any system on it, and will begin the process of deployment through booting and getting to the Windows deployment service and begin the whole process. But in this lab we will begin working with the software installation script, okay. So let's begin. He will open the first domain controller. Now we will open the Microsoft Deployment Tool console, and then we will begin importing the softwares that need to be installed automatically. We will import it in the Microsoft Deployment console. First of all, here we are checking the SQL 2016 database. There is some services that are not running, so the SQL database will not run until they are up and running, so we are starting them. So now we will go to Windows Deployment console, and then we begin importing the softwares. Okay, these softwares, we need them to be installed automatically by using a script. So the first step to make this process works, we need to import the softwares to the Microsoft Deployment environment, or the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and then we will begin working with the script to install them silently and automatically. Silently, but what I mean by silently without the intervention of the user, or without any input from the user. Okay, so here what I'm doing here, I am getting the classic shell. I can show you all where is the programs that, or what is the programs that will be installed. Here we can see that we will install 7-zip. This is a program for compressing and extracting compressed files, and this is the Adobe Reader DC. We will install it, and this is the classic shell. As I was talking before, that this classic shell, it is a program to make the Windows 10 start menu looks like the Windows 7 start menu. Okay, and then we will install Firefox and Google Chrome and Vlsc. It's a player like, it's a media player for playing videos and audio. Okay, this is something like Windows Media Player. Okay, so these softwares should be imported to the Microsoft Deployment Tool, and then after that we will begin working with a script to install them all silently. Okay, so first of all, we have Google Chrome also, but it is zipped file. We need to extract it. Okay, and by the way, here is we need to have a note. All of these softwares are .msi files. Okay, except for the Adobe Reader, it's .exe file. But we will in this lab I will show you, or in this video I will show you how we can get the MSI file for the Adobe Reader, so we can use it for installation. Why we use MSI files for installation and not .exe files for installation? MSI installation are majorly used, or it is frequently used in a deployment environment. For example, if you need to deploy a program for a lot of workstations or PCs, you need to use .msi. It's more appropriate, or it's more oriented for deployment on a larger scale. Okay, .exe has some limitation. Okay, for deployment on a larger scale, it can be only .exe mostly are deployed, or it is set up or installed on 1 or 2 or 3 PCs. But .msi is basically created, or it is basically or its function is to implement programs on a larger scale, so on a larger scale or a large amount of PCs. So we use .msi files for deployment, for large deployment, because the MSI, it is oriented, or it's created to help us deploy programs on a larger scale. So all of our programs will be .msi, because we are working in a scenario that we need to deploy softwares on a large number of PCs. So the best extension, or the best programs to be used, program extensions to be used, is the .msi files. And actually .msi files, it is easy to configure them to be installed silently or without user input, because its commands are very easy and simple. But if you need to install .exe or a program.exe and you need it to be installed silently or without user input, it differs from one program to another, especially when it is .exe. Okay, so you will be in a dilemma. You need to go and read the manual for the program and to see the switches and the commands for installing it silently. But .msi, it's a global known extension and its commands are global, or they are unified. So you can, for example, this is 7zip.msi. You can install it silently with a command and use the same command when you install firefox.msi. It will apply on both programs with the same command for installing it in silent mode or without user input, even though they are two different programs, but they are using the same program extension. So if you are, bottom line, if you are planning to install a lot of programs on a large number of PCs through the deployment solution or the deployment option we are using now, the MDT, or you can use as SCCM, for example. This is another solution. You need to work with the .msi programs extension. So you need, I will show you all that. We will not use Adobe Reader.exe. We will create or we will extract from this .exe file a .msi file. Okay. So here is the Google Chrome. It is zipped. We will unzip it because it contains the .msi file that I need to deploy. So now we have our first domain controller and second domain controller. We will go to the deployment toolkit, and then we will open the deployment configuration, and then we will tell him on the application, we tell him new application, and then he will ask application with source files. It's saying in the first option. Let's go back a little bit further. Again. Okay, let's show you because it's asking about some options. Here we will import the application to the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit through right-click Applications, and then it's asking application with source files. That means copy the source files from this application to the deployment share. What I mean that I have on this server, I have a partition called D, and this D I have a folder in it called source files or source installation files, and I have in it all of my programs. So what he will do, he will copy all of these programs in my folder D, for example source, and it will copy it to the deployment share, okay, which is the deployment share. Okay, so it's copying the source files from my for example D sources to the deployment shares. Okay, copying the programs as a whole. Okay, here is the first option. The second option, application without source files or elsewhere on the network. Either no source files are required for this application, or the application exists at a separate UNC. Here, for example, you are telling him that you don't need to copy. Here you will not copy the source files or the installation files to the deployment share folder. Here you are telling him to get it from a share or a network folder, okay, something on the network. For example, if you have the source files on a network share, you can tell him the share or the location of these files on a share network, okay, using UNC, Unified Network Concurrent, I don't whatsoever. So the first option is to copy the source installation files from your location. For example, if you have your source files on D source, for example, it will copy this installation files from D source to the deployment share. Okay, this is the share or the folder that will contain the Microsoft deployment scripts and Windows source files and the application source files. We know what is deployment share from our previous videos. And the second option is to not to copy the installation files to put it on the deployment share or on the deployment folder. He will show you only the location of the files, and he can install them from the same location. Okay, you don't need to get a copy and begin dealing with the copy for installation. He will copy or he will begin installing them directly from the source location. Okay, application bundle, create a new application bundle. There is no installation command associated with this application. Instead, only the dependencies of the program will install. These dependencies can be configured after the item has been added. Well, I don't know actually the application bundle, and we will not use this option. The default option or the frequently used option, it is the first one. So here you are telling him the program name, 7-zip, and then 7-zip, and then we will tell him the source directory. Here we have our source directory, or the installation files are in you will see that the source files are in, yes, deploy SCCM application. Okay, here what I am doing, that I have all of the programs here that I need to deploy. I will make a folder for every program. So I will have 7-zip, and then 7-zip folder, and Adobe Reader folder, and Google Chrome folder, and Firefox folder, and Vlsc, and then I will begin putting every .msi file or every installation file for every program in its correspondent folder. So this is the source folder. So because we use the first option, what we will do now, the Microsoft deployment tool, it will copy these programs from the deployment SCCM application to the deployment share. Okay, so this is the first option, and now we will make another one for the classic. Okay. Take note that the classic shell is .exe and the Adobe Reader is .exe. We will do some operations or some commands to extract the .msi files from them. Okay. Okay, so we'll take the name of the file. Here I'm telling him the source directory. So it will copy the installation files from the source directory to the deployment share to the destination directory, which is deployment share. From the deployment share, these programs will be installed or will be automated. Installation will be automated. So here what he will asking us, we can get a little bit further for the destination. No, again, this is the sort. As for the destination, it's telling you specify the name of the directory that should be created. This folder or this directory will be created in the deployment share. So in the deployment share there will be a folder called 7-zip. Here it will contain the 7-zip installation file. How this installation file will come to this folder? By copying it from the deploy SCCM source. Okay, this is the folder that contains the installation files, the source or the source file and the destination file. Okay, so do this. So here we will put a command. We will put the file name of the installation file. We can see here, for example, it's called .msi, and then we'll have a space and we will type qn. What is the meaning of this command? When the Microsoft deployment toolkit begin working with the script for automating the deployment of 7-zip, it will read this command. What this command will do, it's telling him to install the 7-zip program qn quiet node or quiet mode. Okay, so installing 7-zip in quiet mode means that it doesn't need any input from the user and nothing will appear on the screen. It will be installed silently. I mean that after 2 or 3 minutes you can open the programs, start and then programs. You will find 7-zip installed. It will not need any user input. It will accept the default configuration for the 7-zip. For example, if the 7-zip will be installed on C program files, it will accept all of these settings and do everything, but without a user input and also without the user seeing the installation process. Okay, so when you have any MSI file and at the end you type /qn, it will install the program silently. I mean, no installation process or progress will be displayed, and the default setting will be accepted silently and without an input from the user. As I said before, as an example, if we, for example, run the program for 7zip.msi/qn, the 7zip will be installed in C program files 7zip, and after 2 or 3 minutes you will find it in the start program files. You will find it. You will not see any installation progress window. Okay, and all of this will be done silently, and all of the default installation setting will be applied and without any user input. Okay, so the default installation setting will be accepted and no installation progress will be displayed for the user. Everything will be done silently. So if you have any .msi file and put at the end /qn, that means it will be installed quietly, silently, by accepting the default installation values. Okay, and no installation progress will appear for the user and no input are needed from the user. So we'll do this for all of our, so that's why we use .msi file, because /qn, it is used on all .msi files. Okay, even though the programs differ. For example, you have here 7zip.msi, after that we will have firefox.msi. the same command apply for all .msi files. It doesn't differ by the difference of the program. Okay, next, finish, and then we will begin importing one by one. This is the first program. Then we will begin using the first, again we'll use the same options, and then we will use the VLC, which is VLAN, I think it's video LAN converter. This is the program, works as a media player. And then we tell him the source directory. This is the place where the installation files are there. It will copy it from the source directory to the destination directory, which is the deployment share, and the folder by the name of the program. Here also, to install the VLC program silently, we will use the same command. We need only the file name, and then we will put switch or something like something called the switch or /bar. Okay, /bar, or I don't know, and then /qn. So now this program will be installed silently without any input from the user and by accepting the default installation values. Okay, here also we will add the we had added the VLC, and we have added I think we have added 7zip, and then we will add Firefox. I think next one, Firefox. And then we tell him the source directory. And then D, and then deploy SCCM. This is the source directory, Firefox, and then next, and then next, and then we tell him the file name / not VLC. It's no, this is not correct. This is for the Firefox. This is the program of VLC. We have mistaken here. We need to change the file name because we have used the wrong one. Anyway, we will now import the Chrome. Google Chrome. I think we need the installer because the program it is in Google Chrome, and then installers, and this is Google Chrome standalone enterprise.msi, and this is the location of the source files for installation. Okay, and then next, Google Chrome, and then we'll tell him the program. This is the name of the program, and then at the end /qn for silent installation. So now I think we also need the Chrome, Vlsc, Firefox. We need the classic shell, but here the classic shell it is .exe file, so we will make a process, or we will go to the command prompt and we will type a certain command so we can get .msi file from this .exe file. Okay, there is a process we can do this by a command. Okay, so let's do it now. Run, and then we will type cmd. Here this should be run as administrator. It actually is telling you it will run it as administrator. This task will be created with administrative privileges. So cmd, and then we will go to the directory that contains the program of classic shell, which is cd deploy sccm application. But it's wrong because ion. So now we will dir, it means list the files in this folder. Then we tell him cd. Cd means that enter the file. Here, by the way, if someone doesn't know command, when I type d and 2 commas on it, that means go to the partition D. And then I tell him cd deploy sccm application, that means go to the folder of cd deploy whatsoever the name of the folder. If I tell him dir, that means list all of the folders and files under d deploy sccm application. Okay, so cd goes to the folder, dir list the files, and typing the drive letter of the volume or partition, and then press enter. It will goes or redirect you to the partition that you have typed. Okay, so let's go there. Here we tell him a command, I think it is excrat 64. So now we will copy the file name. Okay, and then we will copy and paste, and then space, and then slash, or I don't know, no, space only, and then extract 64. So by this command you are telling him to get the MSI 64-bit get the MSI 64-bit program. Okay, or extract it from this .exe file, extract the .msi 64-bit file. Okay, here we go, we can see it. So now we can use this 64-bit because actually we are installing it on a 64-bit system. So here we can import it and then put the same command on it, /qn, to install it silently. A classic shell. Then next, and then tell him the source directory. And then here we will go to the classic shell, then next, and then we put the command. We need to get the file name. Okay, /qn for silent installation. Finish. And then I think we need to add the Adobe Reader, and we also add the Office. We need the Adobe Reader DC to be installed silently, and also for the Office 2016. So here we have a documentation, okay, for how we can get adobe.msi file from an adobe.exe file. Okay, how to get an Adobe Reader DC .msi file from Adobe Reader DC.exe. Okay, and also this is a documentation. This documentation that we will use to configure different installation parameters for the Adobe Reader DC. Okay, what I mean by this software or this documentations will create an answer file, or will create something like an script, a small script, that during the installation of the Adobe Reader.msi file it will apply some installation parameters automatically. For example, it will tell him, for example, to install it in a certain location. It will disable some options, it will enable some options. Okay, it will make the Adobe Reader the default reader for the software. All of this will be done something through a program called Adobe Reader DC custom installation file. So what we will do, we will extract the .msi file, okay, from the Adobe Reader.dc.exe file, and then we will use the DC custom installation file to begin automating some installation parameters to be used when the Adobe Reader is deployed on a large scale automatically. You will see that in a moment, but just bear with me. You need first to get from this file .exe file to get the .msi file. So here this is the command, okay, that we will type, so we can get here what I am telling you. This command, what I am telling him, this command, it will get from the .exe file, it will extract all of the contents of .exe file. By the way, .exe file, it's something, it contains a lot of files, okay, and they are like zipped, okay, they are not zipped, but they are packed in one file called .exe. So we will unpack all of the files that are contained in the .exe. One of the packed files in .exe, it is the .msi file. Okay, so how we will do this, we will use it through PowerShell. Okay, and they will type the command. This is the file name of the Adobe Reader.exe file, and this is a command I'm telling him to unpack the files in .exe file in a certain folder. This folder, we will check it later, and we will see it will contain the .msi file from this .exe file. Okay, so we need to do this process, and after we do this, we will begin working with something called Adobe Reader customization package. We will tell him to open the Adobe Reader.msi file, and then we'll begin customizing the various parameters for the installation of the Adobe Reader. And after that, we will save it, or we will put it in a file. This file will be used automatically when the Adobe Reader is installed, so it will automate the installation parameters. Okay, this is something like an unattended answer file for Windows. If someone knows this kind of installation, it is the same one. So we will use a file which will be attached to the Adobe Reader.msi file, and then when the Adobe Reader.msi file is launched, it will begin installation automatically, and all of the installation parameters or configuration will be answered or will be filled automatically from the file that we have been editing by the customization program. We will see that in a moment, don't be in a hurry. But first of all, we need to extract or to unpack the .msi file from the .exe file. So we'll see that in a moment. You can go like this. First we need to, because I have done a couple of things, but this is not good, we will go there again. So we'll make it through the PowerShell. you will open the PowerShell and then right click and run as administrator. And then we need to go to the folder that contains the Adobe Reader dc.exe file. It's in D double quota or double commas, I think, or double notation. Okay, this will go to the D partition, and then there I tell him to list the files and programs, files and folders in this partition. Here anyway, there is a problem you need to know when you are working with PowerShell, that if any folder contains spaces between its name, for example here my folder is called deploy space sccm space application, the PowerShell doesn't recognize the spaces. So if you need to enter a folder through the PowerShell script, you need to make sure that the folder name doesn't contain any spaces. So to overcome this, I have took my Adobe folder. I have a folder created in deploy sccm folder that it's called Adobe. In it contains the Adobe Reader installation file. So I will take it in another destination, and then I will put it on the D, or directly on the D partition, and then I will access it. So let's see this. Here for example, let's go. Okay, here we go. What I have done, just a minute. What I will do, I will go now and show, just a minute. Here, no, we can go a little bit further. Again. Here, just a minute. No, again. Okay, wait for a moment. No, I need to show you that I am getting the folder of Adobe. Okay. So here I will go to this is deploy sccm application, and I have a folder called Adobe in it. I will cut it and put it directly on the D partition, and then I will go to the PowerShell and access it. So Adobe folder is only one word, and the folder doesn't have any spaces for its name. Okay, so cd Adobe and press enter, and then we will use the command that will be written now, so we can unpack the .msi file from the Adobe Reader.exe file. Here we can see that this is the command. When we press enter, it will begin extracting the file or unpacking the files. Okay, so after that we can go to the unpacked files location and get our .msi file, but still there is an error here, so I think I will show you all the process. The problem with it, because I will show you the final result, because there was a problem. Anyway, again, no, I think I didn't install the file. Just a minute. Okay, let's see. Okay, just a minute. Here you go, just a minute. Okay, so now this is the correct one. You need to type the command in this format, because I've been typing it wrong, or the command was not written correctly. Anyway, I will give you the documentation okay for the deployment of Adobe Reader DC on a large scale. We have this as a PDF. I will put it in a Google Drive link in the description description section under my YouTube video. So here, this is the command. We will go to the Adobe folder, and then we will type this command, and then we'll press enter. It will extract the .msi file or unpack the .exe files in a certain location, which is ctemp whatsoever, and from this location we'll get our .msi file. Okay. So now we will go to ctemp Adobe Reader deployment, and then we can see that we can get the .msi file. Here we can go to the C, okay, temp, then this is the Adobe Reader, this is the unpacked files deployment, and then we can get we will get all of these files, we copy it, and then we will put it in our source directory or source installation files directory. So now we have our .msi file, we have extracted or unpacked it from the Adobe Reader.exe file. So this is a way we can get MSI files for Adobe Reader from a .exe program, and we have shown you on from a couple of minutes ago how we can get from the classic shell the .msi file also through command prompt or command shell. So here now we will install a program. Through it we will customize the installation of Adobe Reader. What I mean by customization, we will create an answer file or we will create an unattended installation file that will be attached to the Adobe Reader.msi program. So when the Adobe Reader.msi program runs, it will automate the process of the installation. This is the customization program that we will use to create the unattended or the answer file for the Adobe Reader installation. As I said before, the Adobe Reader installation will be automated using an answer file or unattended answer file. This will be created using something called Acrobat customization program or wizard DC. Okay, you can download it from the internet. I have already downloaded before, but you can download it. You can search the internet. It's called Adobe Reader DC customization program or customization wizard. Okay, I can show you also in a couple of minutes because there is a lot of things here. I need to, okay, here you go again. You can go, just a minute. Just a minute. No, the customization, I need to show you the customization file. Okay, here is the location. I can get back also. Just a minute. Here we can get to the Win customization wizard. Okay, and then here is the files for the Adobe Reader customization package or program. Here we have we will use the version because we are using the version of Adobe Reader DC 19, so we'll use this customization version 19 also. So this is the customization program for the Adobe Reader DC 19. It is the customization also, so you can see that they are compatible or they are the same version. This is customization with 19 and Adobe Reader is also Adobe Reader 19. So this is the customization file that we will use to customize Adobe Reader version 19. So now we will install the program of Adobe Reader customization package. And we will put it, or I put it on my virtual machine, which is DC02, which is the second domain controller, and I put it in the Adobe folder. And then we will install the program on the domain controller, second domain controller. Okay. So now it's telling us if you can get, here will tell us to open the program. We will open it. Here is the customization program interface. We will tell him to open the .msi package, the Adobe Reader.msi file, and then we will begin customizing the different installation parameters for the Adobe Reader, and then we will after making the different installation parameters, we will export it as a file. This file acts like an answer file that will automate the process of the installation of the Adobe Reader. So now we will open the program, all programs, and then Adobe Customization DC Wizard, and then we will tell him to file open .msi file, the Adobe Reader.msi file. Here you can customize everything concerning the Adobe Reader installation parameters. You can disable some options, you can enable some options, you can disable online features. We will see that in a moment. This is a very good documentation. Okay, here we will open the .msi file. Here we can see that, for example, the first thing it's asking you about the installation parameter. You can get a little bit further. Okay, this is the default installation path. If you need another path, it, for example, it will be installed on the C program files, and then it will make a folder for the Adobe Reader. If you need to change the default installation path, you can do this, and you can browse to another location, and we will check surplus display of end user agreement license. That means that the user will not, by choosing to accept, here it accepts the license agreement automatically for the user, so the user doesn't have to accept the license agreement. This option, when it is checked, the license agreement are agreed on automatically and checked. Okay, so the user doesn't have to interact or input or check that he accepts the license agreement. Okay. So this is the first one. And then we will tell him to make the reader. Here we can see that there is a couple of options. Here, for example, we can see that we will make the reader, Adobe Reader, the default PDF viewer. This is, we will use it through through the installation options, sorry. And here the installation will be silently, no interface, so there is no window for the progress of the installation of the Adobe Reader. We will use the second option. And surplus reboot, which means that it will not reboot the PC or the workstation after the installation of the Adobe Reader. It's surplus or it's bypass the reboot. Okay, you can reboot it manually after that as you like. So here we will make the Adobe Reader our default viewer. It will be installed silently, no interface will appear, or no installation interface will appear. So okay, so you don't need any input from the user. Okay, so this is all good for us. We need, because it need to be deployed on a large number of PCs, and we don't need any input from the users or any interaction from the user. Okay, so let's complete. From the installation options, first the personalized options, and then installation options. We will make the reader the default reader, and then surplus reboot. You can see that it's all simple and easy. And then we are telling him that we don't need to have Adobe Reader DC shortcut on the desktop, so this is also another option. As we can see here, that we can customize the installation of Adobe Reader from a lot of options can be customized. Okay, here we can see that we will not put a shortcut for the Adobe Reader on the desktop. And then for the online, we don't need the Adobe, for example, disable upsell and some online features. Okay, we don't need the Adobe to go and do some online features, for example, like disable upsell. I don't know what is upsell here, but I think it's disabling some online options that are not needed, or for some security concerns. So here we will disable Adobe Sign-In. We will disable Adobe Acrobat Document Cloud Services, and disable Send for Review. Disable third-party connections such as Dropbox, Google Chrome, etc. So here we are customizing the installation of the Adobe Reader DC, and disable SharePoint connector. All of these are installation of the Adobe Reader. And then after that we will tell him to save the package. After doing all of this installation parameters, or after choosing all of these installation parameters, we will tell him to save these installation parameters as a file. This file, it will act like an unattended answer file, or this will be a file that will automate the process of the installation of Adobe Reader DC. And this installation will be done silently, and all of the installation parameters or the installation inputs during the installation will be done by this file. So there is no user input or user interaction. Okay, so here we have saved the package. It will be saved as .msp file, I think. Just a minute. We will go to the folder that contains the Adobe Reader .msi file. Okay, it's here, and Adobe. Here we can see that there is a file called setup.ini. This file, the .mst, this is the file that will contain all of our installation parameters that we have been configuring from a couple of minutes. So now we have our Adobe Reader .msi ready, and our installation parameters automated and ready to be imported and deployed through the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. Okay, I will leave this documentation. It's a very good one. So now we will go and import the application. Here we'll tell him to. Now he will copy all of the files, including the .mst file that contains the installation parameters. And after that we will need also to import the Office 2016 and make an answer file like we have did for the Adobe Reader, so the Office 2016 can be installed automatically also without any input from the user and without seeing the installation process. Okay, here we will go, and here we asks for the Adobe Reader file name. We will go, and here is a mistake that I have missed. I should, after putting the Adobe Reader.msi file, I should also have put /qn, but I forgot this. So during the installation, the Adobe Reader progress appeared for me. Even though I can't interact with this installation process or installation window, but my main concern, or we have been discussing, that the installation progress should not appear for the user. Even though he can't do anything, he can't disable it or enable it, or can even cancel the installation. But in the installation package, we told him that we need the installation to be silent, so no installation windows or progress should appear for the user. Next, and then source files will go to the D, and then Adobe. Okay, and then okay, next, then next, and then we will put the name, and then next, and then finish. Finish, and then we need to import, but first of all I will mount or will insert the Office 2016 DVD, insert it or mount it to this virtual machine, and then after that we will tell the Microsoft deployment tool to import the application from a DVD. Okay, not from a folder this time, but will be imported from a DVD. Anyway, this can be done simply. Okay, but I have here a problem that the DVD was having a virus on it or something, so it didn't accept the import. But anyway, the process will be done without any problems. This is very simple. I have another way. I have got a fresh Office 2016 DVD that I am sure that it doesn't contain any virus, and then I have imported it, and it was done correctly, or it was done without any problem. Okay, anyway, I can just bypass all of this quickly because I don't need to show you all the error that appeared for me. But anyway, I have here, just a minute, we can go there. Here we will go to the application. Here I have already copied the Office 2016 DVD on a folder, and then I am telling him to import it from this folder. We can go back. Okay, so here I tell him right click, new application, and then application with source files, and then I will tell him I need the Office, Microsoft Office. So here also in this we have another process to customize the installation parameters for the Office 2016. This also will be done through an answer file. I will show you all how this is done. Here, as I said before, I have copied the Office 2016 DVD and put it on a folder, and put it in my deployment application folder, and then here goes next, and then there is a command line also. You need to type this command in exact or in the exact or type it as it is on the screen, because this command will install the Office 2016 silently without the input of the user. Also this is only a first step because we need to configure some other options, okay, but this is the first thing for automating the installation of the Office 2016. And to be silently, we need to type this command, okay, and then next. Then we will begin configuring some other options so we can automate the installation parameters of the Office 2016. What I mean that when the installation of the Office 2016 begins, we need the installation values to be filled automatically through the unattended answer file that we will do now. So how we can make an answer file for the Office, or unattended installation file for the Office, we will do this now by right click the program and then properties, and then we will go to dependencies, okay. This is the quiet installation command as we see here. So now we will go to dependencies, okay. No, it's in Office production. Here we can see that this is configuring. Here it's saying to you that, remember, we can go a little bit further here. I need to show you all something again. Okay, we can go a little bit further. Here we can see that this command configure setup what so, and at the end configure.xml, this file will contain the installation parameters for the Office 2016. What I mean that this file, when we create it, the Office will take all of its installation values from this file, and this will be done automatically. So we will configure this file with all of our installation parameters for the Office 2016, which will be done through Office products. Now we will see that. So here we can see that choose the product. Here my DVD contains a lot of Office 2016 versions. We will need the Pro Plus, and then we'll tell him this is the config.xml setting. This is the file that will contain our installation parameters that will be done automatically for us when the Office 2016 program installation will begin. So here we tell him we need the English, okay, and then we'll tell him accept license agreement automatically, okay, this will be done automatically. And then we'll tell him display level none, which means that no installation window will appear for the user. This is meant by display level. And this is the language that will be installed, the Office will be installed in or installed with this language. And then we can tell him always surplus reboot, okay. We don't tell him not to reboot the PC after the installation of the Office. Here we tell him the display level to be none, okay. You can put your consumer name, and then always suppress reboot, or always suppress reboot, which means that you will prevent the machine from making restart after the installation of the Office. Okay, I need here to say something. When I tell him edit config.xml file, all of these options, okay, when you tell him to edit config.xml file, all of these options are converted to commands. Okay, so what I mean that all that we have done here through clicks and checking boxes will be written in a file in the config.xml file. What I mean, this clicks and options that we have choose will be written in a file. This file is XML file, this file that will be used when the Office is installed. So you can play in the options from here, and this will be reflected to the configuration file, and it will be written in commands. For example, when we were installing the Active Directory, we remember that we have chosen some options, and at the end it tells us to export a script or something for what we have done for the Active Directory installation parameters that we have chosen. For example, we have chosen the domain name, we have chosen some options. All of this clicks and options are converted to a PowerShell script with commands written in it. So we can use these commands to make another installation without the need for clicking and choosing options again. Okay, so this is the same concept here. So we will tell him apply and OK, and then we can tell him to edit the config.xml file. Here we can change the installation parameters by changing it through commands, or we can change it from choosing here options or something, and this will be reflected to the commands in the file. Okay, we can type it real quickly. Come here. So here we can see, for example, this is the file that contains what we have done from a couple of seconds by clicking and doing things. For example, here we can see that this is accept EOLA, that means license agreement, no. Okay, surplus mode, no. Okay, we didn't use this. Display level, display level for a couple of seconds, it's full. So you can change here the parameters, and after telling him to save, you will see that it will be changed in the window box. We see that some options are unchecked because here we are playing with the command line, not with the graphical interface. So we'll see that in a moment. Here, for example, I will change, I have a file that contains some configuration. This is, for example, here we can see that the display level is none. Okay, we tell him right click and paste. Here we can see that we have choose configure product to be Pro Plus, that we have done a couple of seconds. The display level none, this we have also have done it in the graphical interface. Surplus mode, we tell him yes. Accept EOLA, yes. Okay, and some options here. All of this are we have done this through the graphical interface by clicking and checking boxes. Okay, here for example I didn't type the customer, I leave it without anything, but here I will type DC Comics and tell him save. We will see that that will be reflected. Okay, after we tell him apply and OK, this will be put here. Okay, so again we will go to products. Here we can see a little bit that DC Comics, we can see that before customer name wasn't checked and it was blank, but after I have played in the configuration.xml file and put in it DC Comics and tell him customer name, as we have seen in a couple of seconds, this was checked and the DC Comics was done in the graphical interface. So any playing in the command prompt or in the command lines in the config.xml, or anything you change in the config.xml file will be reflected in the graphical interface, as we see here. Always press reboot. Okay, so it will not reboot the PC after. Here we can see all of this is reflected here in this XML file. Setup reboot never. which this is we mean by it by surplus reboot. So now we have done all of our automation for all of our softwares. Okay, so we need now to here we need to update the deployment share, but first, before that, we need to make something here. We need to go to the task list. Remember that the task list we have some steps in it. The first step is to use the Windows 10 script automation to automate the Windows 10 installation process, and there is another line that in it that we will automate the software deployment process. So here we need to configure now in the task list the software deployment script. So we'll do this now in a moment. Here we will go to, remember we have done this for formatting the partition. Here we will go to another option in this installation script, or this is an installation script. Okay, here is we will in it there is a section that we will use it to install all of our 6 or 7 programs that we have been configuring from a couple of minutes. Okay, this will be in the state restore. As I said before, all of these steps are scripts. Okay, Microsoft provided for us, and they are automatically written and they are ready for deployment. So in the state refresh, in the last step, state restore, we will see here something called install program. So here we will tell him in the install program section in the script to install the programs that we have imported for him in the applications. Okay, I can pass it real quickly. Here you go. Again. So here we can see that there is, in the state restore, there is something called install application. So we will click on it, and then we tell him install a single application, and then we will choose what application we need to install. Okay, he will give us a list. Okay, if you can see here, browse. Here is a list of all the programs that we have imported in the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. So we will choose one by one. Okay, but there is here a problem. You can see that it's only it install one application. So we'll add an install application 6 times, okay, or 7 times. Every one will install one application. So this is the first one to install the 7-zip. We will add another one under it called install application that will install the classic shell. We will see that in a moment. Apply, and then we'll go tell him add, and then general, and then install application. Here we can see that another install application has appeared, another step in the script. Install application, tell him to install Adobe Reader, and then we will add all of the applications one by one. We will add again, and then general, and then install application, and then we will add the application Google Chrome, okay. All of what we are doing here in the, we are choosing some options, or we are editing some here we are choosing some option and editing some parameters in the scripts for the deployment. This will be written in a file with commands, okay, so we can play with the script from a graphical interface or from a text file that contains commands. We will see that in a moment. So now here we are adding Firefox. Then we have add general and then install application. Then think we need the office and then the VLC. We need another one. Then the VLC. So now we have all of our task list is ready and everything is ready. We need to do something. Here right click the properties of the deployment share. We can see here something. Here is what I'm talking about. This is a script or an answer file, okay, for the deployment process as a whole. This answer file will contain the scripts for deploying Windows and the scripts for deploying softwares and the scripts for joining the PC to the domain and the script for renaming or giving the PC a name. All of this are done in one large script. So here we have done a script for installing application alone, and then we have done another script for installing Windows alone, okay, and then there will be another script for joining the PC to the domain alone, and then one for giving it a name alone. All of this are put in one large file, text file that contains some parameters, okay. So here for example we will discuss this one by one, but here we will do something called edit bootstrap.ini. I will show you what this means, but take care what I am doing and I will discuss what I am doing here. First of all, we will put some things in this file. I have some already parameters. I need to put them here. Just a minute. Here I can get a little bit further. Here we can see that it contains something called setting, priority equal default, and default equal deploy root, DC02 deployment share. Here what I'm saying here, that the script is telling that there is a line called default. You need to go to it, and the default says that all of your deployment scripts and Windows source installation files and software source installation files are in the deployment shares, in the domain controller DC02 deployment shares folder, and this folder is shared and this is hidden, okay. And tell him to skip welcome screen. I will show you what we mean by skipping welcome screen. And this is a user ID, user domain, password. This is the username that the Microsoft deployment tool will use to access the deployment share, okay. Why we need this? Because as I said before, the deployment will be done through using scripts, okay, and the workstation needs, and this share is in a domain environment and the folder have some rights on it, so we need a username in the Active Directory that has full rights in the domain so it can access the deployment share. For example, if you don't give him usernames or password and the workstation try to communicate with the deployment share or to access the deployment share to get the scripts and to begin the deployment process, so it will not begin because it needs a username in the Active Directory that has access or have right privileges on the share folder on the domain controller. So you need to give it a username to access the folder, not only to access the folder and then to begin implementing the scripts. So for this we have created an Active Directory deployment user and give it full rights on the domain, okay. So what is this? Also I will show you a little graph here. Let's go here. When you begin the installation, here we can see that I can show you another graph. Here I said before the PC will be powered on, and then after getting this configuration from the DHCP, it will communicate with the Windows deployment services, and then a boot image will be displayed. This boot image, the first thing that you will see from this boot image, you will see this this window. It will telling you specify credentials for connecting to network share. Here he is asking you for a username and a password on the domain, so he can access what? He can access the deployment share, so he can begin running the script of the Windows installation automation process and the script for the installation of or the automation of the software installation programs. Okay, so this is why we will here, this is the first thing to ask you when you boot or you begin the workstation will begin working, or it will access or it will run the boot image. So this is the first thing that the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit will ask for a username and the password and the domain, a username and the password in the domain that have access on the deployment share. So here in this we are telling him, okay, when this window ask you for a username and the password in the domain, give him the MDT.du user, this is the domain and this is the password, and please don't make this window, just a minute, don't make this window appear for me. So answer this or put these values and accept them, and don't make this window appear for me. So what I mean, put everything or put the parameters or put the values in it and accept it and close it. Okay, all of this I don't see any step of it. Okay, so what I mean that when the workstation communicate with the deployment Windows deployment service, it will see only Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and then the deployment process will be the deployment process will begin. It will not ask him for a username and a password, and also this window will not appear for him at all. Why? Because we have told him in the boot.ini strip file, boot.ini strap, to answer for me all of this here, okay, and make it disappear for me or don't appear for me. Okay, so this is the one for the boot step. Skip welcome screen, this is meaning skip Windows skip welcome. Here what I'm saying here, skipping the skip BBD welcome, this is the BBD welcome, this is the window for welcome BBD. Okay, so I'm telling him to skip it or don't make it appear for me, and after making him not appear for me, answer the following parameters, or answer the username with MDT.du, answer the domain with whatsoever, and answer with the password with get. Okay, so we don't need to interact with this window, it will be interacted for us. This is a small answer file that will put all of the values automatically and accept it and make it in a silent mode, so the progress or the credential window will not appear for us. Okay, anyway, we'll begin this. So now this is the boot.ini. Here I am checking and confirming that the Microsoft deployment user have the password that I have provided in the boot.ini file. So this is why we are using our Microsoft deployment user Active Directory, because this is the only user that will have access to the deployment share that will contain our deployment scripts and Windows 10 installation files and software installation files, and all of the process of the installation will not be done automatically unless the workstation can access the deployment share, which will be done through using the Microsoft Deployment User Active Directory. Okay, so here we can see another thing. Okay, here is some parameters also. This is said before, edit bootstrap.ini. We have said why we are editing it and what is the function or why we are using this to to bypass the user credential window and providing it with some values. Here there is some parameters, we will discuss it now. This is also will be done automatically, so let's discuss it here with a little bit of clarification. Here we can see, for example, that remember the first time that we have created the deployment share, it asked for some things. First of all, the path of the deployment share folder. Okay, we see here that the deployment, we have tell him that the deployment share will be on D, and then he will ask if you need to back up the computer, you need to put a product or a license key for the Windows, you need to set a local administrator password, you need to take an image or make a copy of take an image from the Windows after the installation, and if you need to enable BitLocker. All of this are in these commands. Okay, for example here OS install means installation of Windows yes. Okay, and then skip capture, which means that do not ask an image to be captured. Here we are telling him, here we are telling him to skip with, but by the way these are not checked. Okay, so here for example we are telling him install the operating system. Okay, skip capture means ask if an image should be captured. This is unchecked. Okay, this is the first thing. Skip admin password, yes. Okay, that means also that we will not give it a local administrator password. Skip product key, we will not give him a license key. This is also checked. Skip computer backup, this is also should not be checked. So if you see all of them, and skip BitLocker, so all of these 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5, all of these 5 lines, these are their correspondent in the graphical interface. So here we will install the system, we will skip the capture or the image, we will skip the local administrator password, we will skip the license key, we will skip the computer backup, we will skip the BitLocker. Okay, so all of these are skipped. Here we can see that this telling him to skip task sequence. Here after you finish this, or after I was telling you before that the first thing that you will be asked when you go into a deployment or zero touch installation, it will ask you for a username and password to access the deployment share. Okay, so you can begin the process of the deployment. So after that it will get you to another window or another screen, which will be this one. Just a minute. It will get you to something like this. Okay, it will get you another window telling you which task list you need to implement. For example, here we can see that we have a task list. We named it before. It names Win LTSC 2019. So if you have more than one task list, for example if you have 3 or 4 task list, so you should provide him a name or which task list you need to implement. So here what I am doing here, I am telling him that I need to implement Win LTSC 2019. Okay, this is the task list that we have done, as you remember, to partition the hard disk of the Windows and to install the softwares that we have been configuring for a couple of minutes. So we need to tell him in the task list to use Win LTSC 2019. So here we will go again, and okay, here we can go and tell him skip task sequence. So here I am telling him not give me a window asking for the task sequence, and then I am giving him the sequence, the task sequence. Here I am telling him to skip, don't give me a window asking for the task that you need to implement. I will give you here, okay, I am telling him not to give me a window asking to select a task or to give him a task name that I will implement, and then I am giving him the task list that I need to implement. Here it will be Windows LTSC 2019, this one, sorry, this one. Okay, it will be this one. Okay, so here what it will do, then after that will begin telling me okay. So now skip applications mean that you don't need to install applications. From a couple of minutes we have been telling him to install 7 applications. Okay, so I'm telling him to skip applications. What means here that please ignore or don't give me a window asking me which applications you need to install. Okay, this is what it means. And then skip apps on upgrade. Also don't give me a window for upgrades. And then after that I will give him 7 applications with, this is the 7 applications I need, but this is not their names. This is something called application GUID. This is a unique number. When we have imported the applications through the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, the 7 programs, every program is giving a unique number. Okay, so here the Microsoft Deployment Tool will not recognize the application with the name of it, no, with its number, and this number is unique. Okay, how we can get this number I will show you in a couple of minutes. So now I'm telling him, okay, don't give me a window to choose the applications I need to install. I will tell you which applications I need and give you the numbers for them, this unique number, and I'll show you how to get this unique number, and then begin install. Okay, this is it. After that, skip computer name, means don't give me a window asking for the computer name. I will provide you with a name, but not anyway in this installation we'll tell him no. Okay, so what I mean, don't skip the computer name. What I mean, give me a window asking me for the computer name. Okay, so we'll tell him no, not yes. Okay, and then skip domain membership. Here also in this phase I don't need him to be joining the domain, so I tell him yes, skip the domain membership. Okay, don't make him, or don't make this workstation access or join the domain. Okay, and don't use these lines because actually we will not join the domain now, so we will have, don't put these lines here, we will not use it. I will show you later what we will do, but we will not, this PC will not join the domain for the moment, so skip this line and 1 2 3, skip 1 2 3 4 5, skip these 5 lines, we will not use it now, and skip also this line. Okay, and then I tell him to skip user data. This is if you are migrating from one computer to another, so this is yes, skip the user data window. Skip local selection. Here I'm telling him to skip, or don't give me a window asking for the time zone. Skip it. Okay, for the time zone and the language that I need this Windows to be installed with. For example, I need to install the English keyboard, the Arabic keyboard, so I tell him not to give me a window asking for the keyboard, and I'll also skip a window that will ask me for the time zone. Why am I doing this? Because I will give him in the later lines, I give him my keyboard local. I'm telling him to add, this is the keyboard for US, it's 049, this is like a number, and then the user local. Okay, this I'm telling him to add the English language. Okay, keyboard, and this is the language. Here is the language, is it is by name and by number, and then the time zone 004, this is for the Pacific Standard Time. So these 4 lines will provide us with the selection for the time zone and the keyboard. Okay, so we don't need we don't need the deployment system or the deployment boot image to give us a selection for the time zone and the keyboard, because we have already told him what to choose in our script or in our answer file. Okay, and then at the end we tell him to skip the summary. This is the summary that will appear at the end. I will tell him to skip it, I don't need to see it, and then all of the process of the deployment will be written in a text file. It will be in DC02 deployment logs. This is a folder that it is shared, and it will contain the deployment log or the deployment process in a log file. Okay, and this is some things, it will give us the name and month and date. Anyway, we don't need it at all. And at the end I am telling him to monitor through the deployment toolkit. You will have like a window. This window, it's like an online website that will monitor the process of the deployment. So we can monitor the deployment through text file and through a graphical interface acting like a web server. Okay, we will see that when it comes, but anyway we can see that all of these numbers or all of these lines are like an answer file. Okay, and they reflect it through what we have done in the script for for making the hard disk and a lot of things. So anyway, this is what will happen. So we can go now and begin deployment. I have already told you which one. Also, I have this I have all of this configuration in text file ready, so I will leave it for you all so you can see it. Now we can go to the monitoring. Here what we are telling him, I am telling him to enable monitoring the deployment share. Here we can see that by enabling this option, when we go to monitoring, it will give us a window saying that the deployment process is in the phase of what, and they have 50% of the deployment is finished and something like this. So we need to enable monitoring. Okay, and to enable monitor, we need also, after the monitoring is finished or after the deployment is finished through using the monitoring tab here, we need all of the process of the deployment to be written in a text file. And I have showed you that we have already in the script or in the answer file, we have told him where to put the deployment log files. So now, after doing all of this, we need to update the deployment share. As I said before, any change in the deployment share, for example adding applications, changing scripts, modifying scripts, you should after that make an update for the deployment share. But here first we need to change some setting here. As I said before, we will copy, because we need our script to be contain more. I will show you what I mean. Here we can see that we will copy this setting, so we'll make a folder for the deployment logs to be added to it. Okay, so after the deployment is finished, it will put the deployment process or record the deployment process in a text file in a folder. This folder should be shared, and we should give the Microsoft deployment user an access on it that we have done in the Active Directory, and we should make it hidden, okay, so no one can access it. And we should give the Microsoft deployment Active Directory user full access on it. Okay, and we put a $sign to make it hidden. Security, and then we will add Microsoft deployment user. So this is very critical to have a user that in the Active Directory that will do a lot of things using the Microsoft deployment tool. It will access the share, it will deploy the scripts, it will join the workstation to the domain. So this user should have full domain admin rights. Okay, and then we should check that our deployment share, the permissions, we need to make sure that our Microsoft deployment tool, Microsoft deployment user have access on it. And actually the Microsoft deployment user is a member of administrators group, so we don't need to bother ourselves. We have done this from a previous video. So now administrators, okay, the Microsoft deployment user is a group, is a member of this group. And you are checking that this deployment log, okay, Microsoft deploy user. So here after the deployment is finished, okay, we will see the deployment activity or the deployment process. It will be put in a text file in this folder, okay. So here we are giving the group of IT the full access to this folder also. Anyway, just to make sure that we can access it. And actually our DC_IT is a member of administrators, so we can access the department share as well. So now here, this is our script, or this is the one that we have been discussing. Here we'll copy it, and then I can give it a quick brief on it, but here we'll tell him properties, okay, and then go to the rules, and then we will remove all of this and copy this ready-made answer file. So here, as we can see, that we have discussed all of this before. Here we will change the task sequence to put our Win LTSC 2019, and here we are telling him to skip applications. Don't give me a window telling me what to install from the applications, because I will provide you in the couple of lines coming with every application I need to install, and not with its name, but with its application GUID. This is more precise and more accurate and more unique. So the Microsoft deployment tool will not use the application, or will not recognize the application by the name. It will recognize it by the application GUID, and I will show you all how we can get this number. Here as also we can see that here I'm telling him to skip computer name, what means that know that you should give me a window asking me to put a computer name, okay, and skip domain membership no, what means here that you give me a window asking me to join the domain. So from this window I'll put my a user in the Active Directory so he can use it to join the domain. But anyway, I will not join the domain this instant, okay. So skip user data, this is fine. Skip local, don't give me a window asking for the keyboard layout, and skip the time zone, also don't give me a window asking for the time zone. I will provide you with the keyboard local, or the keyboard that I need, and the time zone that I need. So I don't need you to provide me with a window for selection. I will give you my answers here, and you can use it without asking me. And you can see that we have already chosen. Here I'll tell him to skip local section, but here I'm asking him or telling him to choose 0049. This is the keyboard layout for English United States. And then time zone, I tell him not to give me a window asking for the time zone. Here I'm giving him the time zone of specific standard time. Okay, why didn't I tell him to use Cairo and to add Arabic? Because this will be done through using our login script. If you remember from previous videos, our login script will fix all of this. So once he joined the domain, all of this will be changed. Okay, so all of these lines will be implemented okay, when the Windows is installed. So we are preparing our script. This is the answer file that the Windows will use when it is installing. It will go take the keyboard layout, the time zone, the all of this. It will take it from this section. And as for the application, this is also the Microsoft deployment tool will go and install applications according to this lines or to this script. Okay. So here we will get, here we have 7 applications. So I will show you all how we can get the application GUID. Here we'll go to, here first of all we need the task sequence. Okay, this is the name. Okay, and we will go to deployment and then properties, and then we will go to rules, and then we will tell him to task sequence ID. This is the task sequence ID. Okay, and then we need to tell him about the applications. So now right click the application properties, and then this is the application GUID. Okay, this is the application GUID. So here we can get it. We will get it and then put it in the script for the 7 programs. Okay. Okay, and then we will make it one by one. Okay. And then we'll make Google Chrome. So GUID is a very unique number, so every program is identified by the application GUID, not with its name. So because the names can be repeated, but this graphical GUID will not be repeated. Okay. And then we will do with the classic shell. Okay. And here we have only 4 lines for 4 applications. We will add another 3 lines for another or for additional 3 applications. I think this is very simple. We have 7 programs. And then we will add another 2 lines, and then with 6. I think we have another one. Okay, we need another you copy it, and then in the deployment share, then we will add it. And then number 7, then we will get the application for VLC, And then by this we have completed our configuration of the two scripts for configuring or for installing Windows 10 automatically and for installing the applications automatically. All of this has been done, and we need to test it on a virtual machine or on a workstation. We will see that in the upcoming video, but now we have already done all of the necessary configuration. And then we need, after doing all of these changes in the deployment toolkit environment, we need to update the deployment share. So now right click and I think we'll update it again. Okay, I'm just checking that the configuration is correct. Edit boot. Okay, all of these are correct. We have discussed what this means. So now we need to update the deployment share. This is very critical. After any change in the deployment environment, we need to make this, and then he will begin updating the deployment share. Because we have changed our configuration or our scripts, so this should be reflected and implemented. So now this is done, and finish. Okay, I think this is ending maybe. I think I'll make a restart maybe, but I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm doing shutdown. Okay, continue. Yes, here I am just playing with the setting of this virtual machine because I am giving it two processors, and I have another virtual machine having one processor, and my laptop or my host, my two guests are working with 3 processors and my hosts are working with 1 processor, so I don't have enough processors to create another virtual machine. So I will decrease the processor for the domain controller DC-DC02 or the virtual machine DC-DC02 from 2 processors to 1 processor only, so I can be able to create another virtual machine and give it a processor. Okay, I think I will pass it real quickly. Anyway, here I can go to the No, I think I didn't. Sorry, just a minute, because I think I passed something maybe. Okay. Okay, I don't know why I did this, but okay, maybe there is a reason. But I remember that I need to change the setting, as I said before, because I am giving it a lot of processors. I need additional processors to create additional virtual machines. This is a long video, but actually it's very useful. It contains a lot of useful commands and how to install programs silently and a lot of info. So we need to make it more quickly. Okay, just a minute. Okay, this is the SQL services not running, so we need them to be running so our SQL database can work, because without these services our SQL database will not work. I think now I'm checking also the Microsoft deployment user. Okay, just a minute. Anyway, so now I'm just going to change the boot image. As I said before, after any change in the deployment share or update for the deployment share, you need to change or replace the boot image, because any change in the deployment share folder will affect the boot image. So you need to go to the Windows deployment services and replace or add the latest boot or latest modified boot image. I think it is finished maybe. So here we are replacing the 46-bit, 64-bit boot image and the 86 boot image. Anyway, so now we will shut down. Okay, and then I need to, as I said before, to give this domain controller less processors, because I need them to create another virtual machine. So I'll go to the virtual processors to give it one processor only. And then I need to okay, I'm just checking the processor. And then at the end I will shut down the first domain controller, and by this we have reached our end of this this video, and the upcoming video will begin. Here I'm shutting down this is a legal shutdown. Just I am initiating a legal shutdown for the DC-DC01. So the upcoming video will create a virtual machine and simulate it as a workstation without any operating system and the hard disk that is not partitioned yet, and we will see how the deployment or the zero touch installation process will begin, or will what will happen. Okay, because actually we need to test our scripts and see if everything is working perfectly or not. So until I see you all the next video, I hope this video was informative for you all, and I would like you all to thank you for viewing. Thank you. Sorry, that's it, and close this, and maybe close this also, and we'll go here and stop.